a UK top 10
Yes.
at number 10, and not charted in the US, is Spider-Man 2, the reissue.
As we just established, how lovely to see characters in superhero films. Whoever thought it would work?
UK number 9, US number 10 is Longlegs.
Which I really liked. I thought Longlegs was really creepy and kind of smart and funny and cheeky in some ways, but had a real atmosphere of dread, genuinely, properly unsettling fare.
UK 8, US 8, Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Now, this I haven't seen because we pre-rec'd a program, so Simon and I were actually away last week, so I haven't seen this. It's fantasy comedy based on the book by Crockett Johnson. I haven't seen the film, haven't read the book. If anyone has any opinions, let us know.
UK number 7 and US number 7, Inside Out 2.
Which I think is good, and I didn't think it was as good as Inside Out, but clearly from all the correspondence we've had, it has absolutely found its audience, and we've had so many brilliant letters from people who were really moved going to see it with either their children or their parents, and finding that it started conversations that they might not have had they not seen the film. So it's clearly hit that sweet spot, which when I saw it, I wasn't sure that it had done. But hey, critics, what do they know?
Well, I mean, I went to see that, and I didn't think it was as good as the first one. But then again, I wonder how many families have watched the first one at home and watched it, rewatched it, and rewatched it.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore coming into this one, this was that sense of familiarity in the next bit of the story, and their kids would have been, maybe a couple of years older.
I mean, my point would be that because this is dealing with adolescence, the personification of the emotions is not as clear-cut as it is in Inside Out. And in a way, that's right, because adolescence is so much more complicated and so much more messy, and perhaps doesn't lend itself quite so easily to the kind of, the personification of those ideas. But I'm sure if I've only seen it once, whereas Inside Out I've seen 9-10 times, I think.
UK number 6, US number 3 is Twisters.
Yeah, well, so there's a bunch of twisters and they're all going to run towards them. Oh, they're dangerous, or run away. Really?
UK number 5, US number 4 is Borderlands.
Oh.
Now we have 2 comments on Borderlands. One
Go
from
ahead.
Richard Purden. He said, like someone bought Guardians of the Galaxy from Temu. Quite good. And Rich Senior said, you know what? My 11-year-old son enjoyed it, and that's all right by me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that that's the case. I don't know what Kate Blanchett and that are all doing in this. Here's the most encouraging thing from my point of view. This is notwithstanding the 11-year-old enjoying it. It costs something like 120 million. And then I think they must have spent 20, 30 on advertising. And as of yesterday, Deadline Hollywood had it on track to lose 20 million. So that means they probably won't do it again, which I'm glad about that.
UK number 4, US number 6 is Trap.
Okay, so if you listened to last week's show, which, as I said, was pre-recorded, you would notice that Simon did the interview with M. Night Shyamalan, and in fact, the film was screened after we had recorded the program, which is why there wasn't a review of Trap, or indeed any sort of response from me to the interview. However, listen to the interview; it's a very good interview.
We got an email. This is from Paul Madden in Kent. He says, "Hi, Simon and Mark, and possibly Sanjeev," which I, in the old game of but and with and.
Yeah,
we've never had a possibly. Yeah, I kind of think I quite like that in all of my sort of feature appearances as an actor. Yeah. I've gone and done it yet again. I went and broke the M. Night rule. I went to see Trap. I vowed to myself and my husband that we would never, ever, ever, never, go and see another M. Night Shyamalan movie again. This vow was made in 2008 while we were in a packed screening of The Happening. Halfway through this terrible film, the projector broke down. I have never heard such a groan of unhappiness from a crowd when they finally and unfortunately got the projector working again. Trap was certainly not his worst film, and I was excited after hearing Simon's great interview with the director. The idea that we are with the killer and know how he is, who he is from the start, and that the people chasing are more mysterious. There were glimpses of this, but he broke the rule of too much by telling rather than just showing, trusting us that we would get it. That's all straight. My final rant is the bit in the car.
Can I just say the whole film is explained for the hard of thinking. It's literally just sit there a minute. I'm just going to tell you everything that's going on. I know you've been watching the film, and I know you know all this, but just in case you don't.
Well, it's a little bit like kind of like, this is happening now. This is happening. Hold on a second. Haley Mills, we need you. My final rant is the bit in the car with the learned wisdom from the white-haired profiler. This was a complete rip-off of the closing scenes between Ed Norton and Rafe, don't call me Ralph, Fiennes in Red Dragon. This is not The Sixth Sense or Unbreakable, but it is definitely not Lady in the Water.
No.
I pledge you both this. As a vanguardista, I vow never to go to another M. Night Shyamalan movie again.
But you
Love
see,
the show, Steve.
I still think that there is enough that's interesting, even in this, that makes you think, I don't know, maybe the next one will be good. And I did like Glass. And I know a lot of people didn't, but I did like Old.
I see, I'm with you. I think his next film comes out, I'm going to see it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like
hope springs eternal.
Yeah, precisely so. There's always the possibility that he'll hit the sweet spot again.
UK number 3, US number 5 is Despicable Me 4.
I mean, the Minions are really, really funny. Then there's all the other stuff, but the Minions just make me laugh all the time.
Yeah, not enough Minions.
Not enough Minions.
UK number 2, US number 1, Deadpool and Wolverine, which has now obviously taken over $1 billion at the box office worldwide.
Yeah, which is kind of depressing because it's just stuff. I mean, it's, as I said, it is a film made in the wreckage of a civilization with people sitting around picking bits of that civilization up and smashing them on the floor and going, but them, it's, yeah, oh well.
Although I have to say, I mean, I enjoyed it more than you did, but it is, as I think M. Night said in the interview last week, sometimes some people just want a cheeseburger. And I think it's that. I think it's, but also there's nothing else like it in a cinema. I laughed because so many of the jokes, I laughed a lot.
Did you? Okay.
I did. Okay. Didn't you laugh more than 6 times?
Yeah, I did. I laughed more than 6 times, but there are plenty of things that, Chuck Chuck Baby, I laughed more than 6 times and it cost thrumpence. When you consider just the sheer scale of this thing, it's not enough that 6 times I laughed. And incidentally, I'm a cheap laugh, right? I laugh when people say rude words for bum. It's like, I'm a really, really cheap laugh.
I think that, there are a lot of, again, I was talking to a friend the other day about it, who's also an actor, and who kind of said, what was the plot? And I said, no, there isn't a plot.
Yeah, no, there isn't. Plot, yeah.
I think there's even a joke at one point where Deadpool goes, what's this MacGuffin? Yeah. And so, there are kind of like, there's so many in references to it.
I know, but Sanj, it is.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, fine. Fine. Fine.
But also, it's not a great film.
Yeah,
not a great film. But it's also brought a lot of people into the cinema, which is always.
When you say sometimes people want a cheeseburger, I don't think it's a cheeseburger. I think it's the stuff on the floor of a hamburger restaurant. All just put up and just fried together and go, yeah, there's that bit, you like that bit, and you like that bit, and now he's going to say bum. There we go. There we are. Or words to that effect.
Sometimes the stuff off the floor's all right.
6-second rule.
Some of us don't have a choice. UK number 1 and US number 2 is It Ends With Us.
Yeah, which is an adaptation of this 2016 novel that became a really big sensation, sold millions of copies. The author said it was the hardest thing to write because it was, based on their own mother and father's relationship. So Blake Lively is in an abusive relationship, which she finds mirrors the traumas of previous generation and generations, and that's the thing about It Ends With Us. Does this end with us? I thought it was actually a fairly decent attempt to do an inverted commas romantic movie with a serious message about domestic abuse. After I saw it, I went to the BBFC site. They are very interesting. So the BBFC site says that it contains sexual violence and domestic abuse, and they're talking about the 15 certificate, which they said, despite the challenging scenes, the theme of domestic abuse is handled responsibly and sensitively, which I think it is. They said the sexual violence scene is without graphic detail, but sustained and with some emphasis on the woman's distress, and later repeated in flashback. I know that one criticism that I heard is that some people thought it was too frothy for the subject matter, but there's a really smart review of it by my colleague Wendy I, who I'm a huge fan of, in The Observer, in which she sort of says something on the lines of, from the outside, abusive relationships can look happy. in a way, the kind of the way in which the movie is sort of sold, it's that same thing. Is that, from the outside it looks like a romantic movie, but actually it's this much darker thing. It starts with us as apparently in the Parliament. I'm a big Blake Lively fan. I like her very much, and so I thought this was perfectly fine. Have you come across this?
I haven't seen this. I read about it, but also I think it's the first time, certainly that I can remember, that a husband and wife are number 1 and number 2 in the box office. Blake Lively and
oh yeah,
and Deadpool.
That hadn't even occurred to me. That is how out of step with popular culture I am. That thought had not even occurred to me. Wow.
And personally, the other thing that crossed my mind, actually, just going back to the Deadpool thing, is that when your kids were little, did you have the food on the floor 10-second rule?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what that film is.
Sanj, everybody has that rule.
Depends on what it is, of course.
Yeah. No,
soup.
That's right, yes.
Avoid the soup on the floor. If indeed it be soup.